Thank you.
It's a trick.
Oh, lovely. I like choice.
I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Zoning Appeals on this November 11th, 2024. Happy Veterans Day, everyone, or anyone who's a veteran. I am not. I just was wondering if anyone in the room was. Congratulations. Good for you. Okay, we are hybrid today, which means we're both online and in person. So we'll begin with the reading of the preamble.
Good morning, my name is Liz Kukla. I'm going to read the preamble for you this morning. This is Monday, November 11th, 2024. In compliance with notification requirements of the city's open meeting law and section 101.021, the codified ordinances of Cleveland, Ohio, 1976, notice of this meeting has been publicly posted. All boards and commissions under the purview of the city planning department conducts its meetings according to Robert's Rules of Order. Actions during the meeting will be taken by voice vote. Abstentions from any vote due to a conflict of interest should be stated for the record prior to the taking of any vote. In order to ensure that everyone participating in the meeting has the opportunity to be heard, we ask that you use the raise hand feature before asking a question or making a comment. The raise hand feature can be found in the participants panel on the desktop and mobile version and activated by clicking the hand icon. Please wait for the chair facilitator to recognize you and be sure to select unmute and announce yourself before you speak. When finished speaking, please lower your hand by clicking on the raise hand icon again and mute your microphone. We will also be utilizing the chat feature to communicate with participants. The chat feature can be activated by clicking the chat button located on the bottom of the WebEx screen. Please note that call-in users can unmute by using *6. All meeting activity is being recorded via the WebEx platform. These proceedings are also being live streamed via YouTube for public view. We provided a link to the meeting for those who wish to speak on a particular case via our website and email. All requests to speak on a particular matter have been considered. We've also received emails from those who provided a written comment on a particular matter. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Would you like to call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Madison and Ms. Greenfeld will be absent this morning. Ms. Wilson? Present. Ms. Holzer? Present. Ms. Bates?
Present.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum with 3 members this morning, so we should announce to the appellants with 3 members. In order for a motion to pass, it must be by unanimous votes. If the motion does not pass, then the variance is denied. The decision of building and housing will remain unchanged. So at this time, if the appellants would like to request a postponement to a future date when we would have 5 members, please let us know and we will reschedule your case.
Do we have anyone in the room that wishes to exercise their option to postpone if it's done?
Can we defer that decision so we see a vote?
Sorry.
Nice.
But good thought. Do we have anyone online that wishes to exercise their option to postpone at this time? Hearing none, we'll proceed.
Okay. Madam Chair, we have 2 withdrawals this morning. Calendar number 24-109 at 10936 Drexel Avenue. Devondra Marshall proposed to establish use as a residential facility in a B1 2-family residential district. They are withdrawing this appeal at this time. As well as calendar number 24-110 at 1147 Parkwood Drive, RDD Safe Lock LLC, proposing to establish use as a residential facility as well in a B1 2-family residential district. The owner is also withdrawing the case at this time. Therefore, there will be no testimony taken on these cases.
Okay.
And
So-
then, Madam Chair, one more thing. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. We do have one more item to announce that literally just came in about an hour ago.
Okay.
This is for Councilman Hairston's case on 24-180, 13405 St. Clair Avenue. Family Love Enterprise LLC. Is there somebody present for that case this morning?
Do we have anyone online for calendar number 24-180 at 13405 St. Clair?
Madam Chair, this is Xavier Bay. I do not see any activity in the
Okay,
participant.
great, thank you. It appears we have no one.
So the council person is requesting more time He's
Okay.
going to, his plan is to contact the applicant.
Okay.
To have further discussions, to get more information on the project.
Okay, so postponement at the request of council. Did they indicate how much time they wanted?
No, I don't give this much information.
All right. I think we're into at least mid-summer at this point, right?
Right. So December 16th is our last hearing for the year.
All right,
We'd like to do that.
well,
And the next date,
Yeah.
first date in January is January 6th.
all right.
January 6th. So that's all right with you, we can put a month January.
I think that's probably the right thing to do with all the holidays involved,
Right.
the time it takes to organize things.
Okay, so calendar number 24-180 at 13405 St. Clair Avenue, Family Love Enterprise LLC, proposing to establish use as an event center. That case will not be heard this morning. It's being postponed to January 6th. No testimony will be taken on that this morning. If you received a letter in the mail, you will receive a letter in the mail 10 days before the hearing. January. That's all that we have for postponements and withdrawals this morning. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Lovely. All right. Okay, as a courtesy to council, when they are present, we move their cases to the top of the agenda. As it happens, Councilman Harsh is with us and his case is at the top of the agenda. So we'll begin with calendar number 24-179. Anyone for this case who's present in the room can move to the tables, please. And we'll start with reading the case. Oh, you know what, we'll get you situated then. Mr. Mandison isn't here, but Ms. Holzer is going to read his role today.
I'll move forward with reading the order and rules of the hearing. So first, description of the case will be read into the record. Any person wishing to speak on the matter will be sworn in. History of the property will then be read into the record. Legal standard will also be read into the record. The project team will begin by presenting their proposal. Board members will then have an opportunity to ask questions. Those in favor of the project will then be given an opportunity to speak. Those in opposition will also then be given an opportunity to speak. The secretary will read any written correspondence that we have received. City Planning Commission will give the recommendation, and then council members and present will give comment. The project team, if there are any comments that they wish to respond to, will be given an opportunity at that time. Board members are also given an opportunity to ask additional questions, and then finally a motion will be made and seconded, and the secretary will call the roll. That's the order. And then we also have our rules up on the screen. So please speak clearly for the record. We do have a court reporter who is listening in, and they can only record one voice at a time. Do not speak unless recognized by our chair. It's really important that we all speak one at a time and not speak over one another. Please raise your hand to be recognized. All conversation must go through our chair. We don't entertain back and forth discussion at the table. Hold your comments until the speaker is done speaking. And depending on how things go, we may request that comments be limited to 2 minutes. All right.
Okay, everyone clear on that? Great. Ms. Holzer is now going to play her role and read the case into the record.
All right, our first case is calendar number 24-179. This is at 4703 State Road. Willow Park Properties / Empower Recovery owner proposes to establish use as a mental health center for substance abuse treatment in a C1 local retail business district. The owner appeals for relief from a strict application of the Cleveland Codified Ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. And with that, I will hand it over to Ms. Wilson for the oath.
Thank you, Ms. Holzer. I'll go ahead and swear in everyone who is present for this case. You'll raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Please reply with I do. State your name, spell your name, and give your address. We'll start with you.
I do. Chris Harsh, KRISHARSH, 601 Lakeside.
Thank you.
Thano Kapolis, THANO KAPOLIS, 3999 Cardinal Road, from 44333, Willow Park Properties.
Okay. Did I hear you say I do?
I do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Dorian Wagner, Dorian, Mary name Norris, sorry, Norris. Address is 2207 Oak Park Avenue, Cleveland. I do.
Thank you.
Chris Norris, CHRIS, NORRIS. Address is 2207 Oak Park Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44109.
Michelle Renosa, I do. 5709 Leota Avenue, Parma, Ohio, 44129.
Can you spell your last name for us?
I'm sorry, REINOSA.
Okay, thank you.
Lori Caliger, that's Kalogер. 3317 Oak Park Avenue, Cleveland, Ohio, 44109. I do.
Thank you.
Tony Gallagher, I do. KALOGER, TONYKALOGER. And 3317 Oak Park Avenue. Cleveland, Ohio.
Right, thank you all so much. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in this matter? All right, I do see a hand raised. Janet, why don't you go ahead and swear in, please? We can't hear you. If you're talking, you have to unmute yourself. You're still muted, Janet. We can't hear you.
Mr. Bay, do we have a connection issue?
It doesn't appear it's on our end. I'm sending the participant message in the chat right now.
Thank you.
Okay. While we wait for Janet, is there anyone else wishing to speak in this matter?
Maria Sharp, 4274 Pearl. I do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in this matter? All right, we'll let Janet solve your issues and we'll swear her in once she's able to speak. Does that sound okay?
That's fine, or we can do it through chat with Mr. Bay. So we'll move forward. Okay, we'll go with the history of the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We didn't find very many records for this address. We found that it was originally zoned general retail in 1929, and then in 1990, it was changed to local retail business. In our records administration office, we didn't find any records. There are no variances on file. And then in the more recent history, in 2010, there was a violation notice issued for exterior maintenance. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Great. Do we have anyone from legal with us?
Madam Chair, this is Xavier Bay. I do not see anybody from law online.
Okay, great. Ms. Coakley, you want to read legal standard?
Sure. This is for calendar number 24-179 at 4703 State Road. Madam Chair, members of the board, the appellant is requesting a use variance for an area variance with parking requirements in the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, the appellant must prove that request will result in an unnecessary hardship. Denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance. Will 2, deprive the appellant of substantial property rights. And 3, that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, the appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by others, lands or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right, who's going to be the spokesperson for this case? Sure. All right. So, tell us about what you want to do as it relates to the variances that you're seeing.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Renosa. I'm the program director at Empower Recovery. And what we provide is outpatient substance abuse therapy at this location. So what we do is we do group therapy, we do individual therapy, and we provide some case management to Our clients are already residents of the Old Brooklyn area. They live in Old Brooklyn, they reside at different sober houses throughout the community. We provide transportation to our facility. They enter through the back door for their privacy. So that's what we do there. What we don't do is we don't provide any medication. Offer psychiatric services, provide, housing, we don't house them. It's not inpatient, we don't prescribe medications, we don't have doctors or nurses or anything like that. It's strictly, therapeutic counseling for substance abuse. Okay. I'm nervous,
You're fine.
sorry,
You're fine.
first time for this. So,
Yeah.
so we,
That's right.
so we went through, quite a bit of credentialing to be, certified. We are nationally accredited by the Joint Commissions. We also are certified by Ohio OMAS, for mental health and addiction services. So, they watch what we're doing and they make sure that we're operating within the standards of Ohio. Okay. So we are certified through the year of 2027, I think that is. Prior to coming to this location, we were at 2214 Denison. We were there for a little under a year, I think 11 months before we found this location. It was a little small for growth opportunity, obviously, and so in that time, we had, no problems, with clients or with the community. I don't know. That's pretty much what we do. Is that what you want to know, is what we do?
Right, talk to us a little bit about your hours of operation, the number of staff you're going to have.
Okay, so right now, we have 4 counselors. We also have a logistics person, and then we have the 2 owners. And they're not there all the time, but then the five of us are there. 5 of us are always there. We presently have 12 clients at one time. We operate between the hours of staff gets in starting around 7:30. Our first group starts at 8, goes until 1 o'clock. Our second group goes from 1 until 4. And then staff is usually gone between 4 and 4:30. And that's Monday through Friday. So we're not there in the evenings, we're not there on the weekends.
Okay, so you already said you're not doing any housing, you're not dispensing meds. You're not providing actual medical services, this is just psychology and counseling.
Not even psychology, it is evidence-based cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
Group setting and individuals.
Okay.
If somebody needs those services, we, have case managers that will provide them with resources in the community to get those resources.
Okay. And you stated these people are already residing in some type of housing situation
Yeah,
in
they
the community?
receive supportive housing through different sober homes throughout, the community. So these people, want to be sober. They are seeking services from us to, enhance their program.
So motivated individuals?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And talk to us a little bit about ages and gender mix?
So it's male and female, and adults.
Okay,
Adults.
all right.
Mhm.
So 18 plus, mixed gender. All right. Great. Who else on your project team wants to speak?
I would just, Charles Norris.
Thank you.
I would just add, that, we provide transportation to and from the facility each day for our clients. They do not walk there, they don't wait for the bus, they don't take the bus there. We're a structured program. They are shuttled to the facility in our company van. They're delivered to the back door. They enter the facility. They're never hanging out on the sidewalks or out around the side of the building, nor will they be. We really want to make sure that we're at least of a nuisance as possible. And that's, I think that was made clear by, we operated, like she said, for 11 months over at Denison without a single incident. We don't advertise on the outside of our building. We try to operate with the basis of anonymity. So we don't advertise signs and everything else on the outside of our building because, we don't want everybody knowing what the people are doing there.
Right.
It's private. We put a substantial amount of money into the building, about $80,000 worth of improvements to the building. It's as seen in some of the photos you can see in the slides. The building was older and it was outdated, so it needed quite a bit of improvements to be able to, carpet and flooring, and, a lot of painting and, updates, a lot of other things.
I see you've got a gym there. Is that part of the program?
Yes, we do have a fitness facility there. What that does is it gives the client something to do on their breaks.
Okay,
They're not in a group setting for 5 hours straight. They get a 2 15-minute breaks and a half-hour break in between that.
okay,
And that gives them time to go out, and go outside we have a fence out back. They stay in that area with picnic tables only and maybe smoke a cigarette.
okay.
But a lot of them like to go downstairs and blow off some steam and work out. We also have a recreation room where they can go in there and learn how to be just regular adults, doing adult sober things. Like, playing games on the gaming equipment or going to work out, working on their physical health. Some of them created like a little physical fitness program.
Good.
So yeah, they do that.
So that was, you kind of touched on what a question of mine was going to be, about them going outside and if they're smoking outside, if there's a picnic table, they may be having snacks or, bringing a meal with them. So how are you handling, disposal of the, cigarettes and whatever smoking material that they might have, and trash pickup?
We have a garbage can right next to the picnic table. Trash is picked up. Our support specialist, his name's Nelson, not here, but it's his job to go around and clean the facility each day, ensure there's no cigarette butts or trash outside of our area. There's nothing on the ground out there. We don't allow them to throw cigarette butts on the ground. If they do, we'll take smoking privileges away.
Okay, all right, yeah, all right. And are you ever in a situation where someone is not compliant with their recovery or has had a setback and you need to call the ambulance for them or anything like that?
We've had 2 instances in 1 year, and both of those were seizure,
Okay,
where they weren't quite on the right medication. They had a seizure, and we had to call the ambulance. We've never had an instance where someone left the facility or got, went and used or drank or anything like that. If we do have a client that comes in and they're not in the mindset for the day to participate, or they do feel like they just want to leave the program and they call it quits, we provide that transportation straight back to their sober house.
all right,
They're not permitted to hang out outside or any of that.
they're just removed from the premises?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And we have someone there. The entire time we're in operation, we have a support specialist on site for their transportation. If he's not available, Dory or I do it.
All right. Did you want to make a statement as well?
I do. I'm Dory Norris. Regarding some things, we do have 20 cameras on our facility.
Okay,
4 are outside and they're on at all times. And they're available to our logistics person. And they're on all 3 of our phones at all times, weekends and everything. The non-drug use policy, Michelle wrote all of our policies and she's the one that got us credentialed. She's our right-hand woman, but she brought 2 copies of this, in case anybody wants one. There's our non-drug use policy where it says that we will immediately give them a ride home, like we would never just have someone leave. Matter of fact, we had someone that, what was it, a wardrobe change? She wasn't dressed properly, so we gave her a ride home to change. So, we've only had 2 instances, and this is our, incident report, binder, and it has the 2 seizure incidences, it's always had, it's all we've had in. We've been open for 14 months? 14 months, and that's all we've had. Let's see, Chris and I live on Oak Park. We live on the side street. So when we passed that building and saw that it was for sale, we knew we didn't want to bind up our money. So when we saw that it was for rent, we jumped on it. We're like, how perfect can this be? It's the end of our road. It's where I went to treatment at the other end of the road. For Michelle and I are both alumni of Julie Adams, which is at the other end of the treatment center, the other end of Oak Park. So it's like, that's where our heart is. I came from Akron 7 years ago and I never left. So, I mean, we've talked in length with, Councilman Harsh, Old Brooklyn Development Center, to talk about questions they may have, what ifs, how about. So we've been working on that with them. We're members of Old Brooklyn, CDC, and then, let's see, I wanted to talk about also, the smoke breaks, which are only at 3 increments of during the day. Those are supervised through, Nelson Logistics. He's our everything guy. And I also want to add that Michelle and all the counselors are all certified, CDCAs, LCDCs, and we also have a licensed independent CDCA. So they're all very much caught up and I'm sure the verbiage on all their credentialing, all their certifications.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
If I could just add, Chris Norris, if I could just add one more thing. We are responsible business owners and we're held to a standard. That's why we have the Joint Commission certification that certifies hospital. They came in and credentialed us as behavioral health. And, so when things happen, that's why we have binders like this. They come in and every so often and they review our stuff and make sure that we are keeping up with if there's an incident or if there's, keeping up on our reports. All these things, we are accountable to the Joint Committee, both the Joint Commission and to OMAS, which is the Ohio Mental Health Protection Services.
As it happens, a friend of mine sat on the Joint Commission, so I'm familiar with the Joint Commission.
Okay.
And I have another friend who is a substance abuse counselor, so I'm familiar with the process. So, sir, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, we didn't really coordinate, Dory, just when my name is Thano Capolis.
Thank you.
I own Willow Park Properties, which is basically just one person rental real estate business. I own mainly Westside properties, not a lot of commercial, a lot of subsidized homes. And I could say in the 25 years that I've owned homes, I've never been in a hearing like this. And I've probably been to housing courts or court in general 3 times or 4 times. And I own maybe 30 different addresses. I don't make it a habit of being a nuisance landlord or anything like that. So that being said, that property, the gentleman that owned it, he was a surveyor. He died January of 2022. The widow put it up for sale, and there were no agreeable offers for a year and a half. The only reason why I was interested was I had a 1031 tax exchange. I was looking for something. I was desperate, and I bought that building, blindly, basically. A year and a half, if any of these uses that are listed, I think they're pretty limited under local retail, were interested, it was a reasonable price, somebody would have purchased the building, I believe. So then I came along, put it for rent for months, and Dory and Chris were the only ones that were professional. Don't really want a vape shop or liquor store and again, I looked at it, looking at talk about hardships, I guess. So when the taxes go up to my purchase price, I'll be paying maybe $5,000 a year in real estate tax. So I need to get it rented, along with the insurance and other things that I would be paying. I look at the uses, I do think it's a hardship when I see that. So this property was land use office, zoning, local retail. The use that they're asking for is retail. I think it's a misquote or I see not permitted in a multifamily residential district. I don't know where that came from, that number one. It's local retail. So we're in the right category, but we're not in the right subdivision.
Right.
I mean, their business is generally accepted in general retail and limited retail, it's not local retail. So now as time goes on, there's less and less, how many laundromats, dry cleaners still, I mean, pet store.
Right, right.
Look at what my choices are, and I do think there's a hardship there. And, so when they came along, I really loved them because they said, look, you know, we're interested, we live here. And they cut the grass, picked up papers, not papers that were coming from the building, but from the bar across the street or other areas, and we're on the corner, people come around. They immediately took responsibility of the building, painted the outside, fixed any disrepaired windows. And I'm overly very impressed. Sure that I have an interest in them staying there, but it's not going to, you know, destroy me if they don't. But I'm here to say that they are professional. Every interaction I've had with them has been, you know, above board. I drive the west side 3 days a week. I drive by the building constantly. And, you know, I'm here to say that I think that they have a great business and I think they should be allowed to run.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
To you folks.
So, my name's Tony Gallagher. It's my wife Lori. We're over 30-year residents of Oak Park Avenue, 3 doors down from the facility. So, most of our neighbors, many of our neighbors were there before we did. So, I appreciate the work that they do. I'm not, you know, it's an important thing that they're doing. However, my question is as a homeowner, what safety issues arise from a facility like this? You know, they say that they're drawing people from the neighborhood, from sober homes that are coming in. And what impact would this type of facility have on our neighborhood? I do question, I guess my thing, first of all, it seems like this type of hearing should have took place before they put $80,000 into the facility, you know?
This happens.
But on the other hand.
More than you would know.
Right.
So, yeah.
And unfortunately, though, that it's much easier to deal with things before people put it, like, that's not my problem, I guess, in that
Right,
sense.
yeah.
You know, I mean, my home was purchased a long time ago, so I have investment there for a long time. So, but my concern is also just as far as safety, you know, so when you hear drug treatment and so forth, it is a concern of ours. My kids were raised there, my grandkids now come in business. If you pull back from that picture of the location, you would also see that it is 1 block away from William Cullen Bryant, which is an elementary school. Typically, up until this year, there was a school crossing guard on the corner of their location there at Staples Park. So our concern is also for the students in that area. Also, as far as the selection of that property, right across the street, as the gentleman said, there is a bar right there. And there's one across the street from there. I don't know if that's the best selection for people who are looking for drug treatment, you know, again, I'm not. And I think for us, we're a little bit gun shy in the sense that that bar that opened up across the street, we were initially, when that, it was, I'll just refer to it, it was always an old man's bar, right? They didn't have parking on the back, it was street access and so forth. Was it 10 years ago or something when they first approached us? Well, they didn't approach us. Again, it was another thing. They tore down the garage, they put a parking lot in there, and the parking lot was access to the residential side of the street. At that time, the owner was a Cleveland fireman, worked with the councilman to go through it. At that time, we did have a neighborhood meeting after the fact. We were given assurances that it wouldn't impact our neighborhood. We had nothing but problems. There were certainly underage minors. There were fights in the street. There was, there was incidences that rolled into somebody's backyard. There was a fight like that. You know, just bad things, okay? Over time, he did sell it to somebody else that hasn't been the same type of issues that we had. But again, you live through that. it impacts you. It makes you very concerned as far as, I don't ever want to have to go through having to make 2:30 phone calls in the morning, and so forth. So with that, I guess my concern is with their facility, they said some things that are good, I mean, I hear what they're saying, but we heard good things at the beginning of the Dirty Dog as well, you know what I mean? And to me, it's like, those laws are put in place for a reason. As far as the variance, I believe the reason it's under this credentials or zoning is because it is within 10 feet of a residential house, okay? And as I read it, I see that that's why it's falling into this category. I guess, when you look and you see zoning laws that are changed, like for liquor or something like that, that goes to the voters and people get to vote, I mean. So, and in this case, it's not. We did approach some of our neighbors. Most of them were elderly, just weren't gonna make the trip down here.
Sure.
Some of them hadn't received a letter ahead of time. And I'll also say this, so in July was when I first noticed the work that they were doing on the building. And called Councilman Harsh, and he wasn't aware of it at that time, of anything going on. And we played a little phone tag back and forth and I never found out any specifics about it. Then I think, I don't know, Chris, I spoke with you or somebody else was there, and I asked, hey, what's going on here? And they told me similar to what said here, as far as people would be brought in on vans and to me, it's like, well, we don't have any choice with it. If that's what the land use is granted for, then, what can we do? And I think my concern was, though, is over time, we did see some people with backpacks, groups of 10 or 12 or 15. Are those, well, I'll address you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair. Are those people who are being treated there currently? Because what we see is that these people with backpacks are coming from the other side of State Road. So I didn't see, I assumed possibly they were dropped off by a bus, or are they walking there? Also then we see them walking past our house. I don't know, are they heading home? Are they going up to the park to hang out? I don't know what the situation is with that. So it's one thing if they're being brought in by vans and isolated to that area. But I guess that's a question I have. As far as the change in variance, like, I guess, why do they need 15 I guess my question is how many street parking spaces will be occupied? So far I hear that they have 4 or 5 people who are going to be on staff, potentially up to 7 at a time. We already have no parking on limited or hard to get street parking already. Plus we have the bar that is across the street that, although they're not having the same level of issues we had in the past, they still are a business that are parking. So why do they, part of what I heard was they have to prove that this is detrimental, that they can't do business without getting this variance. Well, to me, if you're bringing people in on vans and you have more than 5 or 6 parking spaces already there, 7, I don't know, quite a few, enough for their staff, why do we have to give that unless they have future plans for that property, which then at that point, we are powerless with that situation. And then I guess, so I kind of put some questions out. I don't know.
Right,
Do you want me to bring?
So you've got concerns about security.
Yeah.
Obviously, the bar situation left a bad taste in your mouth,
Right.
and I think we can appreciate that. You've got concerns with the street parking issues, right? And the concerns about just foot traffic in the neighborhood, correct?
Yeah.
Does that pretty much
I mean, I
summarize
think
things
the
for you?
thing would be, right, the concerns as far as what impact does it have on our neighborhood, apart from that little postage pieces.
Right.
Also
Sure.
for the school kids who are walking
Yeah.
to and from school, they do, I think I heard that they have 2 sessions, one breaks at a certain time. How does that correspond with the school letting out and so forth.
Sure.
Parents come picking up their kids. And the other thing I'll say is, I was never notified of any neighborhood meetings or things that involve. I guarantee my wife and I would have been part of that.
Right.
And I think the fact that I had reached out and asked about it, I think a special phone call or letter notifying us regarding these would have also been good. So sometimes some of those things that are being said are not always factual or carried through, you know? So to me, it's like, again, I have a trust issue as far as what goes, I hear
Sure.
things that are being said, but what goes beyond it. And, again, we lived through that. We remained. We didn't sell our house. We didn't dump. And there were some people who could have let leave and other ones who couldn't, but we could have, but we like the Cleveland area. We have roots here and we're not, so we saw it through. We just want to make sure our rights are being represented by the zoning commission.
Absolutely.
And also, if you're going to grant things, is it really necessary? Can they do business without it? What protections do we have? So I guess at this point, that's all the questions.
I think your lovely wife wanted to chime in. a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay. You guys, I'm sure are doing a great business and all that. I take issue with you're saying that no, the people aren't there out walking or doing anything. They are. I saw it 3 times on my street. A group of men, I was shocked the first time I saw a group of men with backpacks and they're walking down the street heading towards the school. This was around 10 o'clock and I have grandchildren. Then I've seen them several other times, just groups of them walking. Then I work across the street at Ameribus Financial Services and my boss had been starting to see this and we see them, a group of them at certain times, they're just all walking over. My neighbor mentioned, she thinks they were coming, we were like, are they going to the bar over here? Because the other bar, they're remodeling that, and they're gonna be opening eventually, so I don't know what that's gonna entail. And then it turns out there's a street, I guess, on the opposite side of this bar, and apparently that's, if it's people living there, sober house, then they are walking there. Kids, again, I'm gonna reemphasize, they haven't been, it's been 2 years since they've had a crossing guard down there. And kids walk, and they walk right by the building. Where that parking lot is, it's right on my street, and it's secluded. Just yesterday, the other day, I was walking back from work, and I see kids were coming, because again, no crossing guards, and they were gonna goof around, and one kid goes back in your building area, and you might wanna look on your camera, and he's hiding back there playing hide and seek in that corner area. Well, if there's people there, I mean, who knows what's gonna happen, and we had, with the bar, we have, with the dirty dog, the people be out there smoking, doing all their things, and kids are walking past there, and we complained, and and my neighbors now, we lived through that, and my neighbors now are even older, and right now, we're the two that probably could fight through this, but we can't, for them, it's protection for them.
Right,
And,
right. I get it.
And after my neighbor, our neighbor, I went to her and she said, I said, well, do you wanna come? And she says, she's afraid because she's like, I don't want retribution on my property. They could, people don't wanna do what, fall in line and agree with this, then, she thinks that someone could come and, knock windows out, but she's like, she's on a fixed income. So there's a lot of elderly people in the neighborhood. And again, I thank God that we're able, people that we can come to this, but I'm not happy. I'm sorry that you rented it, sold it, whatever you picked that place. It's just not a good place for something like this sort of thing. They are walking around. It's not like, and when Tony met with you, they were gonna be coming by a van and be treated and taken back. That's not happening. And it's not. And obviously they did say they do walk there and whatnot. And I guess my final thing would be, if you're having a substance abuse place, why would you put it next to 2 bars? I mean, the one bar, you just cross right over, it's right there on the park. You can get right into the side door. The other one is on the way home, apparently, it's right there. It's more of a restaurant bar. But I find that just kind of a little ridiculous that you do that, and I appreciate you fixing it up and doing all that, but, we have to watch out for our, we pay taxes. My taxes are driven up, the Cleveland Public Schools just passed that, so not only that, I mean, we're gonna be paying higher taxes. Well, with something like this going on, if we even decided to sell, we're not gonna get what the county's gonna believe that our taxes are worth, because once we have to indulge those pieces of information, and if people wanna buy and it's a big enough home and you want a family in there, well, they're gonna think twice because they want the security and safety of their children.
Right.
So that's.
I think we get where your concerns are. So, Ms. Kugler, do we have any correspondence to add to this?
We do, we did receive the letter from the, two people here present, and, we did receive an email from Bruce Page. He resides at 4686 State Road. I'm sorry, he owns property at 4686 State Road, and he lives at 1021 West Shaft. States that he's afraid this permanent variance would allow this corner property to expand into other areas of addiction treatment that is not conducive to this cool area of Old Brooklyn. It has a nice ice cream shop, sports bar, new grade, old tavern. This variance could spread to adjacent property owner Schwartz Uniform Company if they ever decide to close. This is again respectfully submitted by Bruce M. Page.
Okay,
So that's all.
great, thank you. I was gonna give them an opportunity to rebut, but do you want to wait? Okay, all right. I'll let you, if you want to speak to any of the concerns that the neighbors have voiced.
Yes, I'll speak to the walk, and there's a home over on the other end of Archmere that we.
A sober house?
Yeah, sober house. And they were walking, they were, but we've since changed that, because we didn't think it was a good idea. It's only a few blocks, so we were just having the gentleman that resided there walk. We've changed that for 2-3 weeks now. They are being picked up, and they will remain being picked up, from here forward. And we'll need to put that in writing.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like you've been operational for a while.
Yeah,
At
since,
this location.
since September 1st.
Okay, since September 1st. All right, okay.
Also,
Go ahead, Dora.
I'd like to add that, I also have a grandchild, he goes to that school, and I'm sorry that there's no cross guard there. I mean, that's really a different, hearing or something, but, I know that the parking, there's probably 5 spots on State Road that we can use. And then in our parking lot alone, and we're not 10 feet from a home, we're about 34 feet from a home. And, in that back parking spot, there's 8 spots back there. So we're only gonna have, however many, 6 counselors. So there's 8 spots behind our building, because we have that whole property, and we have to leave Schwartz, or whatever, Schwartz, we have to leave them what's the thing called? An easement, 14 feet, so we make sure we always are, abiding by that, Mr. Schwartz.
Okay,
And then also sometimes on recreation days, and on the nice days, we do walk with them as a group, supervised. We have, last week they went down and played kickball down at the bar field down at Low Park. Nothing at the school, of course, but they keep on walking, and they do walk through there, and then you have walked around the block. I took them on myself on a gratitude walk where they weren't allowed to speak. They weren't allowed to pick up nice, beautiful things like leaves. So there are intentions of the walks. It's part of like their therapy. So I know that that's done. And the bars leave bad taste in my mouth too, 7 years ago. So I know that I wouldn't want bars in my neighborhood, and I would have concerns absolutely if there was someone's gonna put a behavioral health facility next to my house, 3 doors down. I would have concerns too. So I would want all these things, in writing of what we're doing and our intentions and the rules and the books and books of policies we have. It's not just a fly by night. Those people at the bar, there's 3 bars and a place where you buy liquor, and a liquor store and a tarot reading. There's all kinds of things going on that block. You know what I mean? So to have something as beautiful as ours, and hopefully those guys, from the bars, they stumble on over to our and knock on our back door and run in. You know what I mean? I can't help but, I think it's in a perfect spot for where it is. Contradictory to, maybe what other people might think. It's in a perfect spot for people who might need and seek treatment because there are so many bars, over a ton of bars. Nice ones, fun ones, crazy ones. The guy that's opening, redoing the bar right across from us, I forget what he's gonna call it, the Wolf something. He's like he's a fireman or someone. We talked to him like in length or whatever. He said we can use his parking spots behind his place until 4 o'clock every day, which makes sense because we're only open till 4 o'clock every day. So there's no reason for us to be parking down Oak Park. I don't want us all parking in front of those nice homes anyways, you know, those are our homes too, that's where we're from. I wouldn't want a bunch of cars parking in our neighborhood, it's hard enough to find spots on our road.
Okay.
Chris Norris, I just want to add one last thing about the park. It wasn't us that asked for the 15 parking spots.
No.
I think the city took into account our basement level as part of the square footage, which isn't used as a treatment. So they said, this is how many spots you're gonna need. When in reality, we're going to need 7 or 8 that we have available behind the building. We certainly didn't ask for 15 parking spots because we're never going to need 15 parking spots.
Right, okay. And, did you have anything else you wanted to add real quickly?
When we took the Michelle Mendoza, when we took them down to the park, we drove them, they did not walk.
Okay.
And that was just an isolated.
Let me ask you this, when they are out in a public situation like that, are they wearing lanyards, are they wearing something that indicates that they are part of a group, that they belong to your operation? And if not, is that something that you can initiate so that it's easily identifiable? That they are your organization?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right.
They're definitely supervised with a credentialed, therapist. So
Right, and I think, I think the neighbors are concerned when they see a group of people walking down the street. I know
I would say.
in my situation, I would be too, who are these people?
Mhm.
My office at home looks right out onto the street, so I see whatever goes on. And so I think it might be beneficial to, identify your people. So if there are complaints, people know who they belong to. Mr. Bay, do we have a better view that might show the drive in, the area where they're going to be offloading the individuals, the fenced in area where the picnic table is? Okay.
Yeah, I do have the presentation here.
I know I looked through this, but,
I don't have better pictures than what.
okay, all right.
There's a straight on view of the back entrance.
All right, so the other concern is the kids getting back there. Do you have, do we have a potential to gate that entrance?
We can, there's a potential for anything, but we can partition off. One of the things we were gonna do out back was lay a patio and put a small fence around it.
Yeah.
So for privacy, we didn't do that yet.
Right. Exactly. All right, I feel like, that might be another opportunity to sort of, seclude your activities from any passerby on the street.
The doors are locked at all times.
Right, but also look into some sort of gating system so that kids will be kids, they're gonna investigate things, they're gonna wanna play, and it might keep them from that. Just some ideas for you. Not saying which way this is gonna go, but just some thoughts. Okay, okay, we'll go to you, Councilman.
Madam Chair, do we want to hear from Old Brooklyn, or do you want to hold off? Then
No.
I'll go now, right?
Whatever you'd like to do,
Okay, then I'll just jump in here because I think we're.
yeah.
So Madam Chair, and obviously thank you everybody for coming down here. I can tell you on a pure representing the interest of the community, the neighborhood is not in favor of this. I've been reached out to by multiple people that live in the community. Obviously, the Norries live in the neighborhood as well, so they're neighbors, and I count them as well, but it's about a 2-to-1 ratio of people that are opposed to this versus people that are in favor of this. And Mr. Callagher, I do remember that phone call, and I try to get back. Phones are always, touch and go because who's at the other end at the time. I would like to make sure you have my email, because as always, it's devoid of, being available at that time, I can always respond via email. But there wasn't time to put together a community meeting before this hearing was held. If you think we need a community meeting, Madam Chair, to the residents, I think we could ask for a postponement to have a community meeting to discuss this more in person with people who live in the Oak Park area if we feel that is necessary. And I'd be happy to host, to find a way to facilitate that meeting. That would be, if we want to postpone this decision making. I think there are a couple things contextually that are going on here. We do have a drug problem on State Road, Madam Chair, and I think everybody knows it. Recently, I was out underneath the bridge at 480 with officers from the CSX Railroad Department and people from the Community Development Corporation cleaning out a homeless encampment where we found drug paraphernalia. We found stolen wallets. We found the diatribe from the people that work the exit ramps right there. The folks that we know are not looking for food money, they're looking for drug money. And we cleaned that out, and it took the better part of a couple of hours. And I've got numerous calls from business owners up and down State Road, particularly the dentist, the dental office, Gentle Dental, with a massive problem in front of the RTA stop where they hang out because loitering is legal at a bus stop. You're allowed to hang out there. And we know that this problem exists, and that's all of 3 blocks south, I think, of this. If you were to look at it. So we do know that there are drugs in the neighborhood. There are drug users in the neighborhood. There's a drug problem in the neighborhood, which sort of brings us to a fork. I am aware of the fact intimately that there are more people in need of help than there is help available. This is a problem we have in America with drug and alcohol addiction and abuse. We have more people misusing and abusing substances than we do help available to get those people away from their troubles. And so I have a big heart and an open mind about ways to help people. We also know that residents have a right to an expectation when they buy their home in a neighborhood. And then part of that expectation is the zoning code of where they're buying their house. One of the reasons, Madam Chair, that people are opposed to this type of activity is because of the development that we're now going to see where both ends of Oak Park will be bookended by treatment facilities. Before this job, I was the housing director at Metro West up on Denison, Clark area, and I watched an elderly couple literally get surrounded by sober houses over time. One was allowed, then another was allowed, then another variance, until one day they told me, I am retired and surrounded by people smoking 24/7 because people in treatment smoke a lot. And that is their existence now. Lovely old couple, never asked to be surrounded by all these halfway houses, but one variance was granted, then another variance was granted, then another variance was granted. And that is a very real concern that I will not overlook and will not overshadow because I've seen it with my own 2 eyes. And we're here today to decide if we're going to see it again. And that is exactly why people take a principled disagreement with allowing these types of variances. Where does it stop if it can't stop? I understand that. I didn't understand what was bothering me so much about it until last night when I talked to my wife, and so many things become clear when I talk to her. What bothers me so much is that they have a spot on Denison 22, where they had the exact same situation. Councilwoman Moore had to get them a variance on Denison because they weren't zoned properly there, and she did, and they got their variance and they've been operating. But they knew about the variance issue and they knew about the zoning issues before deciding to put $80,000 into this location. It was something they had dealt with before. They had been to this rodeo, but they did it. And it again gets into the issue of, well, we granted them a variance before. Why wouldn't they reasonably expect that we would grant them a variance this time as well? That's their experience. You do what you want to do and then you get the variance later. And that's what rubs me the wrong way now. I will say to residents, we can ask for a postponement and have a conversation about this. We can also, and I've been to many zoning hearings, we can also dig very deep into conditional variances. And I think that's the right word, conditional variances. Conditional variances are stipulated based on certain conditions. Conditional variances could be that the applicant must return all participants to their place of origin by vehicle. That nobody's allowed to leave on foot. Conditional variances could be that the variance is revoked if the applicant transfer operation or otherwise abdicate their operation of the premise. I have seen variances given specifically for that user. There was a wheelchair ramp once on Denison where the kid had a nice wheelchair ramp that wasn't built right. And they gave that kid a variance just for that kid. It's the only one that can use that ramp. We could do a variant, we could make a conditional variance that is revoking the applicant's alter services away from non-pharmaceutical. Because we do know that methadone is real. We do know that those clinics, and I believe, and Madam Chair, let me pause here and ask you, do you know if pharmaceutical use is covered under the same variance that they are asking for today? In other words, if they were to get this variance, and this would be somebody here, would they be able to open up a pharmaceutical treatment facility?
We have Ms. Leonard with her hand up.
Oh.
This is our Chief Zoning Administrator.
Yes.
Ms. Leonard, go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Yes, this facility would be, for a mental health center would allow for it to be a Suboxone or methadone treatment center. It is a substance abuse treatment facility. That's what they applied for.
Thank you, Ms. Leonard. And this is the obvious fear and concern that neighbors are rightfully engaged in. We could make a conditional variance that any alteration to non-pharmaceutical services would revoke the variance. Or any deviation from outpatient specifically. In other words, never let people live here. Never allow that. We could encourage a conditional variance that is revoked if the operators lose their licensing. They have state licensing up for review in 2027. And lastly, I don't know if this is even possible, but a conditional variance where it just simply sunsets and we review the issue in a few years to see how it goes. Now, the reason I'm offering this line of thought is that while I want to again state for the record, the majority of residents are against this and are asking you to deny this. I also want the neighbors to know that this is not a secret council controlled board. I do not actually get to make this decision. I do not appoint you, and you do not work for me. There is an executive legislative split in the city hall. You are on the executive side of operations. I'm on the legislative side. I am here to voice and to represent the neighbors. I do not get to make this decision, and there is no back room where we talk about this ahead of time and then come to an agreement, and I get to decide what to do. And this board has gone against my proposals and wishes numerous times before. So I want to make that clear, but I want to put all options on the table should this board decide to move forward with their request. My other question, and this might be for Ms. Leonard as well, is there a 1,000-foot radius on the operation of these facilities? Because that is something that we should know about. And where is that 1,000 feet? And is anybody else licensed within that 1,000 feet? Madam Chair. Do we want to do that now, or do you want to come back to that, Madam Chair, to Ms. Wilson?
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely.
Do it now?
Yep, Shannon has a hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Madam Chair, Shannon Leonard. So a couple different things. So there is no 1,000-foot buffer requirement. This use is first permitted in institutional research because of the institutional nature of it. Secondly, it's defined as a mental health center. So a mental health center is inpatient or outpatient, but which does not serve as a primary residence. So this would not be like a residential facility or a sober living home. This is an institutional use that it's classified as. And then the parking was determined because they're not located within 15 minutes of a high frequency transit line here. So the parking is based on chapter 349, and it's based on the square footage of gross floor area, which is usable gross floor space that was on their permit application. So that's why the 15 spaces is required. I would also state that if they're going to say that there's 8 parking spaces in the gravel behind there, that they would need to submit some type of site plan showing that it's properly graded and drained and in line with the code as it required for parking spaces. So just flagging some of those issues that I see from this conversation.
Great.
Madam Chair, I'll say two more things and then I'll pause. I think the contrast of the bar opening across the street is really important for neighbors and for everybody here. I get more calls about bars, I get more complaints about liquor operations, as you might imagine, than anything else in the neighborhood. But I also get complaints about everything else in the neighborhood as well. There's a lady that wants me to shut down McDonald's. However, I've also spoken, I think his name is Bill, the guy opening the bar across the street. He is a retired fire marshal. He plans to close at 11 because nothing good happens after midnight. But that was encouraging. I don't want the Caligars to make 2:30 phone calls either. And I think that the hours of operation are essential to what they're doing, and the hours of operation are essential to what the bar is doing, because we can have good, responsible operation. We can all be adults in the world together if people take care of their responsibilities. But I have gotten very, very few calls about treatment centers. I've gotten no calls about Julie Adams. And I've gotten no visual evidence. I've lived in the neighborhood for, I guess, 11 years now. Julie Adams was open before I moved in. I live about 2 blocks from Julie Adams. They're right there where I look at them every day. I drive past them every day and I've never seen a problem. And I haven't gotten problems about treatment facilities. I've got calls about halfway houses, sober living houses where people fail because there's a failure rate and people fall off the wagon and it turns into an incident, and those are residential. What's being proposed here is non-residential, and that is important to note. So the last thing I want to say is this. So people are, I think, here for good reason. I think they're here because they love their community, they love their neighbors, and they love the people that want to be helped. But I think I know why things go wrong. Things go wrong because of money. Things always go wrong because of money. There are 4 counselors, a coordinator, 2 owners, and at least $5,000 a year in taxes that need to be paid in rent. There is money involved in this operation. If this were AA, we could hold it anywhere. AA is a volunteer operation. It can go anywhere. Any group of people can get together and have a conversation and talk to help and support each other. There's no zoning required. I can hold AA in my living room. All volunteer, allowed to have people over. That's why every church does it. This requires zoning because it's a business. Businesses make money. We're covering now 7 salaries and rent. There's a decent amount of money involved in this. $80,000 investment into the property. Money is where things end up going sideways. A few years from now, when one particular sober house decided they were going to send their people somewhere else and you lose that contract, and now you have to figure out where to pay the bills and you have to figure out how to get the money in, and maybe you'll let that other house over there have their people walk. You know, maybe there will be a way to sort of just vaguely change things to keep the finances running, because businesses require constant influx of capital to be successful. And that is usually 9 times out of 10 where these things end up going sideways. It's not because the people here are ill-intentioned or bad at what they do. And it's not because people set off to do wrong things. It's because the realities of financial decisions get in the way. We have too much commercial in Old Brooklyn. We have 40% vacancy rates in Old Brooklyn because we no longer live in a society that needs 10 bakeries and 5 butchers in every single neighborhood, whether we like it or not. We're Amazon and Target oriented, and that's how so we've got a lot of vacant properties, and I appreciate trying to come up with creative reuses for vacant properties. They're better used than vacant. So that was a diatribe. Sorry,
It's okay.
I would say this. Should you decide to move forward, please let's have more conversations about conditional variances. I think the neighbors are correct to worry. I think they are right to have these concerns. I think it is in the best place of the long-term interest of the neighbors. They have these concerns, and the neighbors are, by everything I've heard from, 2 to 1 against this.
Okay.
Madam Chair, we should make it clear for the discussion that the board does not do conditional use variance based on the owner. It goes with the address.
Correct.
So, and also I don't think we've ever done for a use other than a temporary parking lot. Any sort of sunset.
Correct.
That's another thing that was mentioned. It goes with the life of the property as far as use variances go.
Correct. Right.
And it does not go with the owner, just for clarification.
Right, yeah. And we've not done anything except for temporary parking with the sunset. Let me go to our folks that are online. Let's go to Ms. Sharp.
Hi there. So we had the opportunity to meet with the team on Friday. I think it was Friday, and we saw their facility. They seem to have a really great space. Our organization has a community health focus and understands that there is a need for these kinds of services in the neighborhood. That's all I'll say. Thanks.
Okay, and you are with the CDC, correct, Ms. Sharp?
Yes.
All right. And we have Janet.
Madam Chair, I did get a message in the chat from Janet. If she's unable to mute, I did get her message. She spoke in the chat and said that she agrees with the neighbors, I believe the Caligars.
Okay.
When they were speaking, she just typed into the chat, I agree with her and speak.
All right. Okay, right. So we have that on the record then. Mr. Bay, do you have any sense of what our saturation is with sober homes and group houses in this neighborhood?
Sitting here, I'm gonna try to share this screen.
And Madam Chair, while from them, Ms. Gallagher, I'm sorry, no, with Ms. Lawrence, it was a bit visible to me behind you, but not visible there, said that she's unable to be unmute. I could see it right there, it wasn't showing right there.
Yeah. Sometimes we need eyes in the back of our head.
That's right.
So this is the existing zoning map, along with the current mapping of adult residential care facilities. The closest are fair distance to the north, cluster of 3.
We have a cluster of 3 altogether like that?
Yeah, I found out about that about a year ago. Apparently he's been doing it for
On Bolton.
20 years and his mother died and passed the business over to him. I was
2,500 feet
shocked to
away.
learn about it.
Okay.
Looks like Shannon Leonard did read this from hand again.
Pardon?
Shannon Leonard has another comment.
All right, Ms. Leonard?
Yeah, 2 things. This is not a residential facility. They're proposing a mental health center, so
Right.
people should not be living on site. So they would not be subjected to the 1,000-foot buffer of residential facilities, even if there was a residential facility within 1,000 feet. Because residential facilities that are state licensed, they could be sober living homes, or they could be, a foster home, or they could be somebody with clientele with developmental disabilities. So that's not really relevant here. The other thing the councilman had suggested was conditional variances. And while I know that this board has put like hours of operation and things like that, something like who they service and some of their business operations type of conditional uses, that's not really enforceable by the city. So something just for you all to consider, that the variances, if they're gonna be conditioned in some way, it needs to also be enforceable by the building and housing department.
Right. To the group homes issue, I was just curious what kind of saturation we had. Not to be confused that this was a residential facility of any kind, but just so we knew, and we never know what the population is in them anyway. So, to Ms. Holster, you had a question?
I think Ms. Leonard clarified it.
Okay. Ms. Wilson?
I did have one additional question that has not yet been addressed. There's some conversation about placing a patio in the back of the facility. Curious to know how that impacts the parking.
Chris Norris, it would not impact parking whatsoever because it sits in an L. When we do it, it's gonna sit in an L shape along the back. You can't really see along the back crux of the building. It would not impact parking.
Okay, so you still maintain the number of spaces?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It would up privacy. Neighbors with that.
All right.
We have a question for
It's the common question.
Just really quick, because we're at,
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
at.
this is very important to me, okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it really is. I believe they said they don't want people down and kind of felt like you were gonna make, I don't know what you do, but kind of like, oh, could we put two things on them? I don't even wanna see them walking down, that's really kind of scary to have a group of people. Then one other person, like one woman next to me said, no, we take them by van to the park. Again, I know they walk them, I mean, maybe they did one time. Recently, it has only been the last 2 weeks, maybe I haven't seen as much traffic with people walking. Was crossing to go to my work and I am stopped with a couple men there. Okay, this is a safety issue, so I don't want any kind of like little leeway of, well, we're gonna, let them walk and they could be in groups, we're gonna take them out, let them get their flowers, whatever. They're heading towards the school, they're crossing in front of my, in front of ours, and I just don't wanna have this. I want safety. As far as being, there's a house right next to them. I don't know how many feet that is, but it's very close. They have a fence, it's their fence that they put up, not these facilities. And it's right there. Now you're gonna have people mulling around out the back, maybe we'll put a little fence around there. The parking lot is not big at all. I mean, you have to have, there's a section in there to drive through, so you can get your shorts if they need to drive things in there. They're gonna be cutting off what they already have in parking, even if they're saying they're not. They will be, and it's just, again, kids are walking back and forth across there, and it's just, there's no police or no security there, I feel bad for the kids, and they aren't just taking them by, the original thing was they're gonna take them from the Denison and bring them here for their treatment on a van. Now we find out, I didn't know until last week after I got the letter, that there's little homes that these people come to, so I'm sorry that I really believe in treatment for people, but I'm tired of our street being invaded by these sort of things. And once you go, it's okay, then we don't have any rights. And I don't want to go through that again. I really just don't. I want a peaceful neighborhood. That's what I want. Okay.
All right. Do you have any further comments?
I would, Madam Chair, I would ask that Shannon Leonard perhaps expand on what is enforceable.
Okay.
I think there's a central question. If the operation is, I forget what the hours they said, what is it, 8 or?
Staff arrives at 7 and the building would be vacated by 4:30, no later than 5.
Is that enforceable? What is enforceable? Is that enforceable if they operate after that? Do they lose the variance? Is it enforceable to require them to provide transportation? Is it enforceable to revoke the variance if they get into non-pharmaceutical work? Is it enforceable? What is it?
Okay, all right. Ms. Leonard, can you respond to the councilperson's question?
Things like hours of operation can be enforced. That doesn't mean they lose their variance, right? They're a violation for operating after what their occupancy permit allows, perchance. But whether they provide transportation or don't provide transportation, whether they start being a Suboxone or methadone clinic, those things, the city has no way to enforce, because you have to think about it. The city operates between the hours of 7 and 5 or 7 and 6, right? In terms of city inspectors, right? They work during a typical Monday through Friday workday situation. And so unless they're standing on the corner, going in and out of this facility all day long, which that's impossible to think is possible. Then it's not enforceable. So I think there's conditions that this board has done before in terms of hours of operation and things like that. Those are more enforceable than not, but things like whether they provide transportation or what their business operations, if you give a variance today for a mental health center, they can operate as the wide ranging latitude of a mental health center, right? We don't really get into the ins and outs of how they operate. And then if you give them a parking variance, then that runs with in perpetuity with the property and not the property owner or the business.
So for clarity, Madam Chair, if the variance is granted, there is no way to prevent the property from being used for a pharmaceutical use such as Suboxone or methadone clinic at a later date.
Since it falls into the category that it's in.
Okay, then my apologies, Madam Chair. My understanding of the use of variance, of conditional variances was wrong. I do not have 100% faith that the current operators will stay there in perpetuity and never vacate the premise. Given the fact that it would then carry pharmaceutical use, I would ask you please to deny the application. It's not for current use, but it is business. If businesses don't succeed, they get sold. New people could come in and already have the variance to make it a Suboxone clinic. That would be entirely untenable to the neighborhood, to the community. And it's not even an issue with people in this room. It's an issue that it's a door that could be opened at a later date. And I do not think that would be acceptable under any circumstances. I thought there was a way for there to be conditional variance to prevent that, but if not, I would highly encourage you to deny the
We have latitude with some conditions. Hours of operation, we have in the past, particularly with event centers, we've made a condition that they have security on hand, things like that. But.
Then I'm sure it all becomes a question of what's enforceable.
Right.
And if it's a
Exactly.
non-enforceable condition, then it's an irrelevant condition.
Right.
I wanna sort of inquire a little bit more about that, Ms. Litter. So if your inspector can inspect whether someone's there past 5 p.m., can't they inspect also whether this is outpatient treatment or not? Because it seems to me those are similar things that would be inspected. So I would feel more comfortable if we could say the condition is only for outpatient. And that be followed, and if there's complaints, submitted that maybe there's something beyond outpatient, then that could be a trigger to enforcement, right? That could be a trigger to go out and inspect to determine whether there's anything outside of outpatient happening. Am I misunderstanding the enforcement processes?
Yeah, so I think that, so a mental health center is defined as like an inpatient, outpatient, but not served as a primary residence, meaning maybe it's a 3-day detox center, or maybe it's an outpatient, meaning people are coming and going, but not staying overnight for any length of purpose. And so the applicant applied as a substance abuse facility. So whether they're, patients are inpatient, outpatient, I mean, I guess inspector could figure that out, but how would they know who is actually staying overnight and who's not, right? And so then on top of that, we also have to think about this as understanding that this is a health type of clinic. So, whether that's, there's also privacy as it relates to healthcare law. So I don't know all of that. But I just know building and housing has a tough time enforcing things as is. And so this is getting a kind of deep, and the only way that they can really enforce is what's on the occupancy permit. And the occupancy permit is limited in what it says.
Is there a different use that would allow them to operate as outpatient, but not a full institutional use that would allow anything other than outpatient?
Not based on what they applied as.
Wait, the question was different. Is there an application that they could submit that would limit their use to outpatient?
No.
Some medical clinic, medical office, it's local.
But I think that's the thing,
So
right?
like
Is
for medical-
outpatient, a Suboxone clinic is typically,
Wait a minute. All right.
a Suboxone clinic is typically outpatient.
Okay,
It's
all right.
where,
Ms. Leonard, the building owner has a question, so did you get a response, a full answer?
I think she was just being great.
Yeah, okay. So, Ms. Leonard, if you want to complete your answer to Ms. Wilson, please, and then we have another question.
yeah, through the chair to Ms. Wilson, are you asking whether this can be limited to outpatient or limited to inpatient?
Yeah, I know that your answer was based on the use that they requested. So my question is there a different use that is more limited that would only allow them to operate as an outpatient facility that they could apply?
No, I mean, this is as limited as it gets. In terms of what the councilman is referencing as a Suboxone clinic, that is an outpatient facility generally.
Understood, thank you.
All right, sir, you can ask
Yeah, I
your
mean,
question.
I
Ms.
think the
Leonard.
council person is like, I guess at this point, we're just speculating that we have bad operators. We could speculate all day long what they could do there. They could sell drugs on their own on the side. Wouldn't that fall under a nuisance? And I mean, and I think, I owned liquor stores myself, state liquor agencies, and I've been a small business owner, and not everybody was on my side. So I think the biggest thing to sometimes prevent issues is to maybe have that meeting that we were talking about. Let the folks meet the owners, have direct phone numbers to them and to myself. If there's ever an issue that you don't call the city, you call Chris. Hey, look, there's some guy walking around the street over. It's one of your guys. Or call me. Hey, your tenants are creating an issue over here. You need to see this. That sort of thing. I mean, if you look at the limited use of the building, there's never going to be parking for a business over there. What was there first, that building or the house behind it? Does anybody know? I mean, it just seems like we're trying to say that everybody that's in counseling is bad. Are there worse people going into that counseling center or the liquor store, 50 yards away?
Right.
So to me, it just seems like, what do we want in society? These folks are trying to help people that have substance abuse issues. And we're immediately branding them as criminals. They're walking, I don't feel comfortable, I don't like them. Where are they supposed to go?
Sir, we get this, and almost every single time we meet, we have a group home, we have some sort of situation like this. So this is not unusual for us to deal with it. We're spending some time on it because, this is a little bit different than what we normally have. So,
One other thing about that is that the sober homes, maybe they should change that zoning. Now, sober homes are in the community, in the neighborhood. So I'm living there and there's a sober home right next to me. I'm skeptical of that because who's watching those folks all day, all night? This is an 8 to 4 and 9 to 4 business that you have professionals there counseling and sending those folks back to where they're sober. I just don't think that this is a big stretch. It's zoned retail. That's what these folks are. It's retail. It's just not the subcategory. I just.
got it.
Councilman. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two quick things. The issue here is in parking. Parking variances are granted all the time. We consider parking a somewhat fluid situation. Parking is dealt with normally. It's not parking. Madam Chair, the issue isn't the character or the intentions or the goodwill of the applicants. The concern for me now is that once the variance is granted, there is a high rate of failure in the business world. A large percentage of businesses fail. It is more common for a business to fail than for a business to succeed. And if the variance is granted and this business fails, the location is now eligible for the type of use that nobody in the neighborhood would find acceptable. That is really the decision point that I'm asking you to consider. It's not them. I've met them. They're good people. They're wonderful. They've got great hearts. And I want them to succeed at some point, somehow, some way in this city. The question is, if their business doesn't go through and it's now eligible for pharmaceutical use, Suboxone, and other types of medical treatment facilities, that's an irrevocable variance. It seems that there aren't adequate conditions that we could put on a variance. And that's the decision we're making. It's not them. It's the forever use of this location. That's the issue.
It's exactly why we're kind of delving into this, because the variance is for perpetuity of the property. So you raise a good point. How are you getting your funding? Are you federally funded or state funded?
No, we're funded through, Medicaid.
Okay.
We do not know the future of Medicaid in this country right now.
That is exactly where I was going.
And private insurance.
And we do not know the future of
So
medical
they fail.
insurance.
Yes.
So they fail. You think that somehow they live on Oak Park. That's why they want this built. So some other operator out of the blues that's gonna come to me and say, oh, we want Suboxone and whatever it's called. I mean, it's so unlikely. I mean, that's not some, and people feel businesses don't fail. People fail.
Chris, just one last thing about that. We take both Medicaid and private insurance. I don't think it's up for dispute. If the medical insurance is not going anywhere, people are gonna have medical insurance. If they have medical insurance, they can come to our facility. The services are paid for, and that's how we get our funding. There are other grants and other types of things we can apply for, but we need this, business to run before we can apply for those grants. The business supports itself. Right now, it's funded through me. I personally funded this business. I put my life savings up to get this business started. That's how confident I am that it runs. I can name off countless other treatment centers that run, and they run great, and they're funded great, and they're not going anywhere. Money's not the issue.
Okay, all right. Ms. Leonard has her hand up. Go ahead.
You muted, Jane.
Ms. Leonard, go ahead. We can't hear you.
I apologize. Yeah, so there's been conversations, a little bit of different conversations going on around the activities here. Can the applicant detail, and he's gonna have to speak a little bit loud because there's construction going on, but can he detail exactly, or she detail exactly, you know, we open at 8, we close at 4, and these are the activities that we're doing. We're just doing case management, we're doing group therapy, or, you know, we have doctors and nurses on hand prescribing medication.
Yeah, we went through that. So their first staff person arrives at 7. And they expect to have the building vacated by 4:30, 5 o'clock. There's no residents, no one is residing. They are not dispensing meds, no housing, no actual medical services. So no doctors, doing any, patient care. The services are provided by, counselors and their group activities. And the shifts are, one group arrives for an 8 to 1 shift, and the second group of clients arrives 1 to 4, and they are transported via vehicle at this point.
So is it expected that clients come, you have like cohorts of clients, so there's clients that come from 8 to 1, and then you said 1 to 4?
Correct.
And then they'll be dropped off by their own private vehicle?
They're dropped, Chris Norris here. They're dropped off by, our company vehicle. We pick up the first group in the morning at 7:30. They arrive at the facility about 7:45. They stay until 1. They're taken home, and the second group comes in. It's a shuttle, basically, with the vehicle. That's how they're transported.
Okay, and then if they're there from 8 to 1, is there like every day they're doing certain activities? Because this is starting to sound more like if there's no medical professionals on site, you know, and you're just doing case management with mental health counselors, are they mental health counselors and social workers? Or is this more like, are there activities for them to do, like, because you know, Ms. Wilson was requesting questions
Right.
around what could be a lesser use, and it's, you know, this could also fall into maybe the potential category of a, you know, adult daycare. But, you know, and if that's the case, then then this is looked at differently, but I think there needs to be some more clarification on exactly what the services that are provided. And then those patients that leave at 1 and those that leave at 4, are they removed from your facility and taken back to their homes, like a shuttle drops them back off to their individual homes?
Yes, that's correct.
So the activities, run down the activities.
It is, evidence-based cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay.
It's group and individual therapy.
Okay, run us through a day. They arrive at 7:45. Your activities start at 8 o'clock, right?
8 o'clock, they have group
They have
therapy.
group therapy. Then what?
And, there are counselors that give them individual therapy
Then
and
individual
case management.
and case management.
And group is from 8 until 1 o'clock. They have
Okay.
15-minute break and a half-hour break. and there is room for them to see their individual counselor for case management needs and individual therapy while they're there in that 5-hour period from
All right.
8 till 1.
And then there's
So-
also a game room on premise. There's also a fitness room on premise, a small gym,
The recreation.
and a recreation room. So they have those activities that they can partake of on their breaks. Right?
So would that be
Correct.
while they're waiting to see their therapist? Because I imagine if there's 3 therapists and there's however many patients, that there'd be some downtime for them to hang around, I guess.
Yeah, typically not. They don't really have downtime for those types of things. Those rooms are utilized as a group. So on Fridays, we usually do a sober recreation on Fridays. So the group therapy on Fridays is usually surrounded by sober rec. So we will have structured recreation on Fridays. Art therapy, so we'll use the recreation room, the fitness room. On their break, their 30-minute break, they get to use the fitness room. Their hour with their individual therapist, their therapist will come to the group and pull them out for their individual hour during the week.
Does that make sense, Ms. Leonard?
So
We can't hear you.
Yeah, it's for the care of, drug and alcohol patients, and so that's regulated under a code for mental health centers.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right,
So it's community behavioral health.
right.
You know, so if they need those services like Suboxone and methadone, things like that, they receive those services elsewhere. You know, they don't get those services with us.
Right. The issue is, I want you folks to understand, is that we grant a variance, it goes with the perpetuity of the property, not with the business, okay? And as the councilman has pointed out, that means should anything happen to your business, then there's the potential of someone else coming in and establishing a completely different treatment business. That's the issue here. So that's what we're trying, we understand what you're trying to do. You come to us with a professional plan. You've had some proof of concept in your previous location. And you've got the support of your property owner. And so, we've taken your testimony in regard to what we often hear, okay? We also have heard from the neighbors. Sometimes we have a whole room of people, but there's also been some correspondence. And then we have the testimony of the councilman, who, is representing your board. So, do we have any further questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
there's one more thing that I wonder if we could flesh out a little bit more with Ms. Leonard. The owner stated he believes that the use is a medical office and it is permitted in local retail. Can we just get clarification? Is this a use that is permitted in local retail, or is it actually a different type? It's not considered a medical.
Excellent, good question. Ms. Leonard, can you respond to Ms. Kukla's question?
Yeah, based on our zoning code, this is not a typical medical office. This is considered a mental health center based on the definition in chapter 325.471. So those are first permitted in institutional research.
Okay, great.
And this is a local retail business district.
Okay. Answer your question?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Can I, somehow put an affidavit in or make a addition to the release that would exclude any psychiatric drugs or whatever drug, somehow or with the zoning committee that once these folks do end the release, that I request that if the zoning gets put back to the originals. I mean, is there something I can do on that
Okay,
end,
all right.
lease wise or?
We have a response. Ms. Leonard, do you want to respond to that?
The applicant owned the property.
Pardon?
Does the applicant own the property? Through the chair to the applicant.
The business, the property owner is the gentleman that was just speaking. Yes. And he's the one that's, he's the one that's offering to do essentially an addendum on the lease to restrict any further change of use and to essentially request that the variance be nullified should this business cease to operate on his property.
Don't deal with leases. The variance runs in perpetuity with the property, not the lease or the business owner. But the applicant or the owner could work with an attorney to see about adding a deed restriction, a restrictive deed, and submitting an affidavit and see if that works. But you know, again, that's what if a variance is granted here, it runs with the property owner outside of whatever they may restrict on the deed.
Does that answer your question?
It does. Maybe we should table it, let these owners reach out to the neighbors. And we support one more footwork with them, and then maybe I can meet with the attorney, and maybe we'll have a 5-person.
Okay. All right.
But we just spent an hour.
I know, that's why I'm turning my head to you, because I
Your
know
testimony.
this is your sensitivity.
I'm prepared to make a decision. I mean, if it's your option to make a request to continue.
Right.
Oppose a request at this point, we've had a hearing.
Okay. Ms. Olson? In agreement? Yeah. Okay. Where do you stand on it?
I think I've been fairly clear with my
Okay,
perspective.
all right.
I'm concerned about the perpetuity of the variance that seems unacceptable.
Got it. Okay. Do you want to craft a motion on this?
I'm having to craft a motion.
Okay. Yes.
I just want to say, I feel like this is trying to put a square peg in a round hole. I agree with Councilman Kirsch. If there was some enforcement involved with it, it would be a different story. We can't open up the door to something that we cannot control. We had phone numbers to the owner of the bar. We called, Councilman O'Malley was at that time. So to me, it's like, without strength of something behind it, we are writing a blank check.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, based on the testimony that we have heard, I'm gonna move that we approve calendar number 24-179 based on the following conditions. The first condition is that they submit an updated site plan that has the adequate representation of parking spaces. The second condition is that the hours of operation are only between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. The third condition is that an updated lease be submitted to the board that shows a use restriction that only allows outpatient services specifically.
I think to Shannon's comment,
She can't hear you.
It's sort of a little sidebar here. I think she wanted a deed restriction rather than a lease variance or lease change. Is that correct?
She's raising her hand. Deed restriction or lease comment, Shannon?
I'm going to leave that to the board to make that determination.
All right.
Okay.
The owner is amenable to a deed restriction.
Okay, so we could do, I think either one is fine.
Yeah.
A deed restriction or a lease amendment, because they both require
All
certain
right,
use.
whatever you want.
So submit one or the other, that shows outpatient use only. I think, of course, the operators know that they must maintain state licenses. If not, the spirits can be revoked if you do not maintain that. And the understanding also is that this use does not include dispensing of meds. So those would be the conditions that I would place. I'm happy to hear for the amendment.
I think with regard to the parking, we would add a written agreement with the owner of the bar across the street, or whatever business it was, yeah, that agreed to allow them to use their parking during the daytime hours up until 4 o'clock. I would also like to see, I would put in there fencing around the back patio. And I would like that to be 6 foot. And I would like a gate across the driveway, so it's not, so that there is no entry except for the staff. Okay. Do you have anything else, Ms. Holzer?
I think I'm reflecting on the difference between enforcing a lease restriction versus a deed restriction. Because my sense is the lease ends and we still rezoned it. If
So you want a deed?
I just don't know realistically, again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what would happen if there were a deed restriction and you were to sell.
Okay.
Are we saying it would go back to being rezoned as local retail?
All right.
I think the deed restriction does have a little more teeth to your point.
Okay.
So is that something that you're amenable to, the deed restriction as opposed to?
Yeah, and I'll return and make sure that we do that. But then the issue
All right.
Okay.
You may need to talk to an
Do
attorney.
you
but-
have anything you want to add to that?
I agree the deed restriction is strong.
All right, all right.
We have a
Our-
lawyer, or could you speak loud?
Oh, I just agree the deed restriction is much stronger.
Stronger.
Right. Okay.
But Madam
Can I
Chair,
make another statement?
if
1 minute, Ms. Leonard, just a second.
if it is sold to another owner, the deed restriction would go away. I'm not sure if I understand how.
We'd stay with it, is that correct? We're gonna defer to our legal counsel here.
Yeah, that's how it's written, yes.
Okay, all right. Okay, are you clear on that? Okay, Ms. Leonard, comment?
Yes, the deed restriction is stronger than the lease because a lease can change over time, as can business owners. The
Okay,
deed restriction goes with the deed of the property, but additionally, the applicant, when they submitted their application, the reason why they were written up for the 15 parking spaces is because they didn't detail that gravel parking lot in the back. So if they intend to use that as parking, they would need to include in their site plan
right.
paved, graded, drained, and striped properly with the proper drive aisles.
Thank you, thank you.
And the buffer fence as for screening between their property and the northern properties
Right,
because of cars.
yep, thank you. That was in my notes and with everything else, I did loop back to that. So, so that would be another restriction, would be an updated site plan showing, paved and drained, drive parking area, striped, and I like tire bumpers. So tire bumpers, striped, paved, drained, and you'll need a 6 foot privacy fence at the perimeter,
Okay.
Placed.
Gated
at the,
at the perimeter. gated.
at the perimeter and gated in a secluded area where your picnic area is and where they smoke,
That's cool.
okay? Again, at privacy height. But I specifically want that gate across the driveway, so you don't have kids coming. Okay,
And they will have to get a.
Yeah, absolutely.
all right,
Share that.
anything else? Anything else? You comfortable with that? All right. Okay, restrictions, conditions. All right,
Madam Chair, can I ask one question?
we're going to a vote, but go ahead. For you, I'll let you ask a question.
Board approve this. What is the timeline for these restrictions before they can begin operation? These need to be done before they begin operation, or what do these have?
They had, this would have to go into effect. They'd have to turn everything in
For the variance?
before the variance can be ratified.
For the variance.
Right. Correct, Ms. Kukla?
We would need the site plan
Right.
and
And I think the deed restriction is a condition, so that would have to happen.
Copy of the deed.
Copy of the deed restriction. We need the site plan with everything that we've asked for to be reflective on the site plan, which is paving, draining, fencing, patio, fencing around patio, include, trash receptacles, all of that. I want you to be as thorough as possible. And then the deed restriction
And the parking.
and the parking and a written parking agreement with whoever offered them the extra parking places. That needs to be a written agreement. Does that cover everything? All right. So those would all be necessary to have in hand before ratification. And they can't proceed until they're ratified. Correct? Sorry, ma'am, we're going to a vote at this point.
I know, but the vote is, I feel like we're just being left out here about the things that concern us, and it's all about their parking and that. It's more than that. It's the.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to be a little firm with you,
Okay.
okay?
Yes, I understand.
All right, we've heard testimony, we've spent way more time than we typically do on this, and we've listened to you. And trust me, because I live down the street from a bar, and I had a car run into my tree lawn. And had the tree not been there, they would have been in my front bedroom. So I appreciate what you've gone through. I was sexually assaulted by my neighbors. So I am completely sympathetic to what you're going through. I had to engage with the community development operation of the First District Police in order to clean up my neighborhood. I lived in hell for 6 years. So trust me when I tell you, I am completely sympathetic to what you're going through. All right?
I guess it just didn't sound like it. It doesn't-
Well, that's why I'm giving you this personal information. All right? Sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
Use also in there, like some of the things that they expressed as far as how they plan to use it.
This is why the owner of the property has made himself amenable to doing a deed restriction.
Some of
Okay,
those things,
so-
will we be able to speak to, or will they address what they expressed
He,
here?
everyone,
as
let
far
me
as
tell,
usage?
we're not taking further discussion, okay? We've gone through everything pretty exhaustively. It's on the radar of city planning, it's on the radar of the council person of the CDC. Eyes are on this place, okay? And believe me when I tell you, I just told you personal things, because I totally understand where you're coming from, okay?
If I.
Okay.
I
All right.
had just one more condition. I know we talked about a community meeting. Is that something that you guys can organize, as part of the just a community meeting? Let the community know what you're doing. You know, let them know who they can reach out to if they're.
Okay. Excellent. And we have done that before as a condition, so, that's gonna be a community meeting. Are you willing to take the lead on that, or the CDC
Yes.
yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Councilman Harsh will send communication when the community meeting has taken place. And, so that needs to be public meeting, public comment, complete presentation. And you're in agreement with that?
Happy to do a community meeting now. Also cognizant of the one no vote.
Correct. Okay. All right. We're good? Is that everything? All right, we have a motion. Ms. Wilson has made the motion. We've captured all the conditions, I think. All right,
Board Member Holzer, I second.
Ms. Holzer for the second, we'll call the vote.
Ms. Holter,
No.
Ms. Wilson,
Yes.
Ms. Bates.
Yes.
Calendar number 24-179 is denied. We will ratify this next Monday and we'll send you a letter.
Okay, great, there you go.
Thank you, everybody.
All right, thank you. Thank you, folks. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving on to calendar 24-182.
Our next case is calendar number 24-182. This is at 1089 Lakeview Road, 2MRE Holdings LLC owner and B3M Resident Care Facilities LLC proposes to establish use of a residential facility for 5 occupants in a B12 family residential district. The owner appeals for relief from the strict application of the 3155 ordinances as stated in the agenda and the public record, of which there are 2. With that, I will hand it over to Ms. Wilson for the oath.
All right, is there anyone in the room for this particular calendar? Okay, please come forward. Is there anyone online wishing to speak in this matter? All right, so with that, I'll go ahead and bring it in. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give is the whole truth and nothing but the truth? You raise your right hand and I would like you to state your name, spell your name, and give your address.
My name is Bill Watkins, National Watkins, WATKINS. Address 1542 Edmonton Road, Cleveland, Ohio, 44118.
Okay, and your first name, spell that for us.
Bill, BIL.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much. Did I hear you say I do?
Yes, I do.
Okay, very good. Hearing no one else is present, back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. All right. Let's do the property, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's been no change in the zoning since 1929. In our Records Administration Office, we found that in 1912, a permit was issued to erect a dwelling and a garage. And there are no variances on file. And then in the more recent history, we found that in 2012, there was a certificate of disclosure issued stating that the legal use of the property is as single family. We see that there's rental registration starting in 2012, going forward to 2023. At one point in 2015, there was a condemnation, I guess the violation issued to the property. And then we see that there were board up permits and orders issued 2014 and 2015. Then later in 2015, there was a permit that was issued to fix condemnation issues. In 2022, we see that there were lead safe certificates that were applied for and they're currently inactive. And that's all that I have. I'm not sure that's probably what they do.
All right, great. Legal standard, please.
Madam Chair, members of the board, appellant is requesting a use variance and an area variance from the minimum distance requirements in the zoning code. To obtain the use variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will result in an unnecessary hardship particular to the property, such that there will be no economically feasible use of the property without the variance, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and that granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code. To obtain the area variance, appellant must prove that denying the request will create a practical difficulty not generally shared by other land or buildings in the same district, will deprive the appellant of substantial property rights, and then granting the variance will not be contrary to the purpose and intent of the zoning code.
Super, thank you. Welcome. Thanks for spending the morning with us.
I had nothing else to do. I enjoyed it. My first time one of these, so
It's interesting, isn't it?
got a kick out of it. I learned something.
Yeah. What'd you learn?
I learned that when you want to do some business, got your eyes across your teeth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, well, let's get to your business.
Okay.
Tell us what you want to do as it relates to the variances that you're seeking.
My name is Bill Watkins, and I own JCS Group Home in East Cleveland. The address is 1180 Melbourne, and it's literally 3 minutes away from 1089 Lakeview. What I'm trying to do is turn it into RCF, Residential Care Facility. My population is both MRD, suffer from MRDD and or homeless. I've been in the group home business for 6 years now. It's something very personal to me. I have a younger cousin that suffered from autism, so it hits home for me. And my clients are family. They're an extension of my family.
All right, tell us about your hours of operation, your staffing.
Okay.
And shifts that they're going to work, their parking situation, those sorts of things.
Okay, well, the property is on the corner of Lakeview and, Castlewood, if I'm not mistaken. Typically, I've never had a client that drove. So parking won't be an issue for me. There's a driveway in the rear of the residence, which holds up to four vehicles, worst case scenario. The house will be, if possible, the house will be zoned for 5 clients. And technically, I only need 1 staff member to serve with those 5 clients. It's a 24-hour business, but my staffing is normally there between 8 to 10 hours on a daily basis. What did I miss?
How many staff do you have? Are they
I have 3
working?
staff. So
Three
myself,
staff?
myself, my son, Billy Deontay Watkins Jr., and Elena Joyner will be
Okay.
servicing this property.
All right. And so 3 staff, 1 working per shift?
Yes, but technically, there's only 1 shift. My staff there's no 24-hour staff. But in the future, if you guys grant me this blessing, I will have a living. The 3rd floor will be converted into a suite where I'll be able to have a living, they'll be there 24 hours.
All right. So you're looking for 5 and gender and ages?
18 and up, mixed gender.
18 plus. Mixed gender. All right. Refresh me with the floor plans. Oh, here we go. So you've got 4 bedrooms up.
Mhm.
And so you're looking for 5 people, but you've got 4 bedrooms.
Yes, so technically, if the room is 12 by 10 or larger, I'm able to have out 2 residents per room.
Okay, so this one that's 13.9 by 12.10, you plan on being a double then?
Yes.
All right. All right. Yeah, okay. All right, so when does your staff arrive?
So staff normally gets there at 7,
All right, and then how late do they stay?
normally 7. But between those 12 hours, there'll at least be 2 staff members, on site.
Yep, okay. All right, and what happens from 7, the overnight 12 hours?
The overnight 12 hours, for the most part, the clients, they're there by themselves. By that time, normally from my experience, clients are winding down at the time. They're normally in the bed 8:30, somewhere in there.
All right. All right, and you're serving 3 meals and a snack, probably,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Standard,
2 snacks.
2 snacks.
Mhm.
Okay. And disbursement of medication?
So we cannot, we assist in administration,
Okay.
administering of the meds.
Mr. Bay, you want to show us the saturation map? Are those front steps stone or are they wood?
No, they're stone.
All right, because it looks like we've got a little problem with that top step. In the center there.
Okay. Get that taken care of.
Yeah.
So on the screen, you see the current existing residential facilities. At the time the application was submitted, the only existing residential facility was this one here to the south, East 114th Street.
Okay.
The proposed properties right here at the corner of Lakeview and Castlewood.
All right.
What's the distance there? It's
It's
below.
about 350.
Okay. 384. Thanks for snapping that measurement. All right.
So the other red dot we see, is that one not active?
This other residential facility had opened up, after they submitted their permit. At least that would be my understanding, since there's only, one listed on the notice of non-compliance.
Okay, all right. All right. So closer than 1,000 feet, but not as highly saturated as some areas we've seen. All right, questions, Ms. Holzer?
I do have a couple of questions. To clarify, Mr. Watkins, are you just the lessee, or do you also own the home?
I own the property as well.
So you are 2MRE Holdings?
I'm part, yes, I am part.
And then I think you testified that you have another home in East Cleveland?
Yes.
Can you share a little bit more about your business, how many you operate, how long you've been in operation?
So JCS Group Home is the name of the facility you're referring to, and that opened up in the end of 2018, if I'm not mistaken. Since 2018, at that particular property, I've had 7 clients. So the last 6 years, I've had 7 clients. So my turnover rate is low. My clients, like I said, they're family. So when they're with me unless they become beyond my level of care, and then I work with their caseworkers to find, someone more suitable.
So that's the only other property
Yes,
that
yes,
you
currently.
own and operate?
Yes.
I have another question, but it's still percolating. So.
Okay. All right, you want to let it percolate? No,
Yeah,
we're
that's
not.
fine.
All right, all right, Ms. Holster percolating. I can smell the coffee from here.
I'm all set.
You're all set, okay. Mr. Bay, do you want to weigh in while Ms. Holzer is thinking?
Yes, Madam Chair, this property is located on a corner, parcel, which is usually beneficial in these cases, as these are somewhat granted businesses. I believe the applicant mentioned on a previous call that they had support from councilmen, would they be able to speak to that? Would the applicant be able to speak to if there was a meeting, or if it was just a walkthrough that the councilman did?
So actually, the guy is a pretty busy guy. I had to track him down, met with him on 105. He had a center on 105, near VA. Sat down, told him who I was. Me and one of my business partners sat down and told him what we were trying to accomplish, and he, essentially greeted us with open arms.
Okay, great. Do we have any correspondence, Ms. Kukla?
No, I don't have anything in the file. You double check my email. Didn't have anything else as of last week.
All right. I would encourage you to reach out to him again and see if he could at least send us an email.
It was sent over.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Do you have a copy of it?
Let me see if I can get that.
And to that end, has there been any sort of community meeting or conversation with your neighbors about the intended use of the property?
No, ma'am. Not. Yeah, not.
And I also want to ask Ms. Wilson's hardship question. So given that you're also the property owner, if you weren't granted the variance for a residential facility, would there be no other feasible use of this property?
I'm pretty sure there are other options, but like I said, this touches home for me. This is my passion right now. I also own a landscape company, and I just hired staff. Well, recently within the last 12 to 14 months, I hired staff to run that so that I can give this my undivided attention.
Madam Chair, I do see that the neighborhood planner Ariel Washington is on, and she did have a comment to make.
Excellent. Okay, let's, Ariel, we need to swear you in, Ms. Washington.
Yes, Ariel Washington, city planner here at 601 Lakeside. And I do.
Okay. And we'll just say the oath. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth and nothing but the truth? And
yes.
You already responded. So for the record, we have that. All right. So go ahead, Ms. Washington, give us your statement.
So just one small comment. I just wanted on there, for the record, again, small. I have not had correspondence with the applicant, but I wanted to voice for the record that as the first case, like the council person, I have hesitation and pushback with these residential facilities. I understand the need for help, so I won't go on a soapbox. I will only give a thumbs up because this one is not very, there's not many other residential facilities around it. However, it is a problem on the east side. And although there's so much help that is needed, the saturation is negative on so many levels. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Washington. I think we are in agreement with that. We have certain council people that are before us at an exponential rate over some of the others, and the east side is definitely an issue for saturation. So we're sensitive to that. Thank you very much. Ms. Holzer, did you come up with your other question?
It was primarily whether or not there's been a community meeting and wanting to know more
Okay.
about correspondence with the city and with the councilman.
All right, great. Did we get that
Yes, I
email?
was just, no, I was gonna ask you, who should I send it to? Who can I forward it?
You can forward it to me. I have my card right here if you wish to have it.
All right, did you get that sent over?
Yes.
All right, awesome. And did it come through, Ms. Kukla?
Yes. Email from him. And here's the letter, yes. And it says, this letter is to express my support for B3M Residential Care Facilities LLC, a residential care facility to operate at the subject address on Lakeview. He also supports the approval of the variance that would allow B3M Residential Care Facility to operate within 1,000 feet of an existing residential facility. If we had any questions, we can contact his office, and it's signed Kevin Conwell.
Okay, so we have support from council. Mr. Bay, did you have anything further you wanted to add?
I don't know.
All right, we're good. Any other questions, board? All right, I'll take a motion then, please.
I'm mulling over whether or not a community meeting should still be held, but I understand that there is support from the councilman and a tenuous thumbs up from Ariel Washington,
Right,
so.
well, I think she's speaking more to the general issue. And we can talk about that post meeting if you want. So. We do not have CBC involvement.
This would be in Kamiko's footprint.
Yeah.
I will move approval of calendar number 24-22. Just a note for the record that there are 3 staff persons. This is for individuals 18 plus, it's mixed gender. If I heard correctly, there's no dispensing of medication on site.
No, meds are available. He helps self-administer.
And it's limited to 5 residents.
And, yeah. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Happy to help.
That's it. Should I add
Done?
anything else? Yeah. Sorry.
Good.
My brain
Right.
is fried after that first one.
Okay, I will second the motion.
Ms. Wilson takes the second, so we'll call the vote.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Holzer?
Yes.
Ms. Bates?
Yes.
Calendar number 24-182 is granted. It'll be ratified next Monday. We will send you a letter, but you can contact us next Wednesday for further instruction.
Thank you. I greatly appreciate it.
I appreciate a CAD floor plan, so thank you for that. Yeah. Drives me crazy when they come in with things that are hammered. All right,
That's it.
you're all set. We'll ratify when we meet next.
Okay.
And then it'll get processed and you can see Ms. Kukla to get your paperwork.
Thank you.
All right,
That's great.
good luck to you. All right, that concludes our cases for today. And we thought it was gonna be speedy. All right. Okay, old business. 2, 3, and 4 without objection.
Without objection.
All right, Liz, you want to go over these items on old biz?
These are your typical affirmations. They're asking for the extension, 6-month extension. They were granted variances in May. Both of these, I'll just state them for the record. Calendar number 24-057, 820 College Avenue. Sandy Banks was granted variances to enclose the existing restaurant's patio. They're requesting more time as they work through technical issues with the site plan. They are working in conjunction with building.
Okay.
And then, calendar number 24-051 at 2429 Superior Viaduct. Bridgeworth was granted variances to erect a 7-story mixed-use building with apartments, hotel, restaurant, parking garage. They have been working through the Landmarks Commission and the local design review process, but they are close to an agreement and they are expecting to submit to building and housing or submit those architectural drawings to building and housing very soon.
Okay, this is the one that's gonna have the little park under the viaduct, right? As I recall,
I'm not sure.
not sure. Okay, I'm pretty sure that's the one. Okay, all right. Without objection on those two?
Without objection.
Thank you. All right. And everyone read the resolutions, any corrections or anything on the resolutions? No? All right, good. Excellent. Okay. All right.
Team building, maybe December 2nd or December 9th. That would be those Mondays coming up.
All right, preference, anyone?
Sorry, I just don't know. What did you say?
I think I'm partial to the 9th, maybe. Let me see.
So team building, like a holiday type lunch team building thing on
Were you here
December-
last year? Yeah.
Or December 9th.
The 9th.
Ninth would be better for me.
Yeah,
Would be better for me.
9th for me.
Okay. I will send it out to the.
Awesome. Okay, November 18th. Anybody absent?
I'm absent, but should we recuse ourselves from the city of Cleveland's variance request? It's a joke.
We're always
Don't worry. It's a joke.
Okay, so with those of us present, no one intends to be absent. So that's good. We'll have to see what the other 2 members are planning on doing. And with that, we're adjourned.